What's up, world? We are back with another All Things House episode. Today, we got one of the homeboys from the East Coast. He has released on Realm, Toolroom, Snatch, Nervous, Love Juice, Cuff, and many more. The homeboy, Tone Troy.
Chilling. I mean, the way that you read that off, though, or you like, I have to think about it myself sometimes now, because like I was like, oh man, did I release some of those things?
Nah, man, I did a little research on you, man. You know what I mean?
Thank you. It's humbling to hear that. I really still don't feel like I'm anybody worth knowing in that capacity yet, but you know.
Man, listen, man. Some of the tracks that you put out that I've heard that you send me on emails, or I've heard out. I mean, I played them out, and they always get a big response. So you know what I mean?
Thank you, man. It's funny because like I never thought that I'd be making music. It kind of just started to happen, and now it's happening. So
yeah, bro. Let's get into that right there. So like the beginnings, we like to get guests kind of like where their musical mind kind of started. Can you explain to everyone kind of how that started?
all right, so sit back. I'm gonna give you the rundown here. So if you may or may not know, I am a New York City fireman still. So the quick version of that is that I ended up getting injured and I couldn't walk for a bit. It wasn't like a traumatic injury, but I ended up tearing a muscle in my leg very badly, and I had a very long recovery on getting back on my feet, literally. So I had a lot of other things in life going on at that time, and I was in a really bad place. I was just like depressed, whatever. So my buddy took me out. He's like, "Yo, we're gonna go see this guy play at this club." And at the time, I hate clubs. At the time, I hated house music. At the time, I hated big crowd. It just was like, why am I doing this? You know what? Let me just go. Right. I went and I actually had a really good time, more so for the artistry of like how this guy was mixing one track into the other. And so at that point, I was like, you know what? Let me just kind of like teach myself how to do this. This is kind of cool. So I taught myself how to DJ via YouTube. I just watched a lot of those like top down videos of people DJing and stuff, and did that for like 3 months, and then fast forward, I lied my way into my first gig. And immediately from that first gig, I was given a Thursday night residency at a spot that typically did hip hop, but they just liked like the vibe and what I was bringing to the table. And then a month and a half after that, so like only 5 months of DJing, give or take, I opened for Roger Sanchez at Shemansky. Everybody's like, this is great. I can't tell you, like, I've never had nerves like that ever. Like, I played football for a long time. I've ran into fires. I was ready to throw up like walking into that building. But from there, I do have to give a shout out to this guy, John Paul Pezzo. He pretty much took a really big gamble with putting me on. Didn't know me. I wasn't in the scene prior. I just, was just like, oh, this is fun. Like, I like doing it. And, I brought a lot of people to that first event, and then he kept putting me on for events. And, because of him, I had I don't want to say like a resume of being a good opener for bigger acts. And that kind of expanded things. And then Toolroom kind of got wind of my story very early on, like around that time frame. And they actually came out and did a documentary piece on me. And that kind of helped push my like, not I don't want to say brand, not or me or whatever, just push my narrative.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, maybe this is a real thing. And I started making music shortly after it. Like, I think my first release I ever had was, I think, at the end of 2018 or something like that. So like, I'm still fairly new in the game when it comes to that. It's just, I became extremely obsessed with this because I ended up using it as the way to get my mental health back in check. So it was, it's a little, I'm a little nuts when it comes to this. Like, I do treat it very much like a business and a creative art at the same time, but you know, that's kind of where my whole musical journey really started, was an accident.
Yeah.
And so now we're here, and
Now
it's
we're
like
here
I'm living this weird double life of like, do I tell people I'm a fireman or a music producer first? Like, like
Slash. You say it got to say slash.
yeah, but it's like I'm throwing too much in there. Like fireman, music producer. What's up, DJ? I'm through. How are you?
Yeah, for sure. So I want to get back to that first night. Do you remember what it was? Not necessarily like, you know, what song that DJ trains you into, but do you remember what it was that made you feel some type of way, like,
Yes.
I want to do this? Or
Yes. Well, it wasn't. It was a little bit of that and a little bit of this. Like I said, leading up to that, I was going through a really rough point in time in my life. Obviously, there was a lot of alcohol involved that day. You know, it's gonna happen, right? But you know, not to bore you with those nitty gritty details, but what really ended up happening was I had kind of like this like moment of like an epiphany moment, if you will. And I was like, you know, as bad as things are, I'm gonna be okay. You know, I'm gonna come out of this okay. And I kind of like correlated that moment with the music that was being played. And so that's like I found like a bit of hope within it. And so that's why I pursued as much as I did, because I found that bit of hope, and I wanted to expand on it.
Well, that's, you know, obviously, you know, with everybody, that's what house music was made from the hope. You know,
Right.
Because everybody was going through a lot of shit during that time. You know, people just want to hope.
Right. It's, you know, like, so because of that, though, I don't want to say that I'm like a house music snob. I'm not, but there is like a little bit of a standard now that I kind of like.
Of course.
Like, I like, you know what I'm trying to say there.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of love for it, and it's very important in my life, especially today. And now that I'm making the career out of it. So it's house music. It's so cliche to say, but it really did save my life, you know?
And on that level, we talk about in the Homeboys all the time. We talk about there's levels in this, you know, DJ and house music game. You know, as once we become, we're fans, we go to clubs, listen to music. That's cool. Then once we start DJing, our ears turn differently. You know what I mean? And then we hear certain stuff that most people don't hear. And what I realized in the last couple of months, maybe last year, is most people that are in the club don't even hear that stuff. We're right. Jackasses. Excuse my French.
No,
that here's that. So, you know what I mean? So it's like,
we're full of bando and we'll curse all day. I don't care.
hell yeah. So I mean, it's all good, man. You know, we all have our good days and bad days of DJing, or, you know, just in life. But as long as you have the house music will never leave us. You know what I mean? Ever.
That's one thing I like. Let's just say this stopped tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's not like I would ever stop listening to house music. Like I still have this appreciation for it and the art of it, even though it's, you know, it's the art's kind of like diminishing in itself. But like there is a, you know, real love that I have for it, and I'm gonna you know, always have this. This is always gonna be part of my personality and like my build and who I become. So I do owe a lot to this and the people that push me to getting to this point to where I am now.
So let's get into the making music aspect of it. You said that started around 18?
I want to say that. I don't really know. Like it happened out of like almost like necessity in a sense. Because all right, so like there's producers that DJ and there's DJs that produce. I am a DJ that produces. Like I'm not even gonna play, because like it's just like I'm apparently I know how to manipulate samples decent enough for it to be a track. That's really where I'm at with this thing. But there was a glass ceiling. Like, you know, what am I gonna do? Opening sets for the rest of my career just because like I'm a, you know, warm up DJ or whatever? No, like I'm trying to push the artistry. You know, I don't think I'm making genre bending music, and I don't think a lot of people do. But the people that do are like, you know, visionaries of their craft. One guy just comes to mind off the top of my head is like Frankie Wah. You know, that guy has like such a crazy sound, and it's so unique and so dope. And like, I have such an appreciation for that. And I'm like, oh man, I would love to play that, you know, but like, I also got to like play the stuff that I'm making, you know, like it's, I don't know. It's like this weird like line that I got to like kind of maneuver around. And I think that's why I really enjoy DJing, because like I'm displaying like cool shit that I found, part of my language, cool stuff that I found for this, you know?
Yeah. But as far as that, how do you create that balance? Because obviously you're a touring DJ. How do you create the balance of staying true to yourself, but making the crowd feel like you're playing for them and not yourself, kind of?
I think so. I go into every DJ set like uniquely. Like I don't want to like, unless I'm playing in random parts, like maybe they don't be the same. Like if I'm playing in California and then New York, let's just say, maybe I'll use the same set list. But it really depends on a lot of different things. It depends if I'm like in the undercard of the bill, like I'm never gonna I came in as a opening DJ into the scene. Like I understand like not to take 100% of the energy away from the people that they're paying to see. I understand that. Like I'll do that. So I'll play my music. Huh?
My bad to interrupt, but we'll talk about that importance of being an opening DJ.
Oh man, I could talk to you for hours. We can do this whole podcast on this thing right now. But so that plays plays a role. The style of party. So like the party that I just did, I did my own boat party this past Saturday in Manhattan, and I was from like 1 to 5 p.m. Like I'm not gonna throw down like the heaters at like 3 p.m. when people are still kind of like enjoying the sunlight. Everything is a setting. It depends on the venue. It depends on like the billing. It depends on the time slot. Everything is dependent on these things, and I try to go into every set with that knowledge, and I'm fortunate enough to get a couple promos. So like I like to play the promos more than I like to play like what's kind of hot right now, because it's just like I want to have that reaction that these people are hearing this for the first time. Like I know it's gonna be a heater, but like I'm the one who showed you the heater. You know what I'm saying?
Hell yeah, I do.
That's why I keep sending you promos, bro.
Yeah, man. Yo, you see how they go up in the club, man. You see how they go up.
I do appreciate you very much, man.
Hell yeah. So yeah, let's get, that can go into the learning how to become an opening DJ. Now, we met when you were in San Diego, and I opened up for, I think it was WAV. I think
WAV, yeah.
WAV, right? Yeah. So that's where we actually met at, and then we got cool from there.
I remember your set very well, and let me give you the credit that you deserve on this. Right? You created such a good energy, like, but it wasn't like overbearing. Yeah. So I'm like hypercritical on openers. Yeah, like I'm hypercritical on them. I'll never tell anybody like, oh, you suck, you're terrible. But if they deserve props, 100% they should get it. And I want to give you that because like I knew the tracks that you were playing, because like I would play that track right now. Yeah, I'd play that track right when you play Shamrat. I was like, I would play that track right now. Like I was in it, man. I enjoyed your set a lot, and then that's why I came up to you. I hope I didn't seem like a fanboy or nothing, but I was just like giving you the credit you deserve,
No, and you said it's your name, and I was like, yo, I had your songs anyway, so it's like we knew each other anyway.
I appreciate it, man.
So yeah, so the ability to become an opening DJ, can you give some good characteristics of a good opening DJ and some bad characteristics of a bad one, and maybe give some of your experiences on?
All right. So some of this might be like too much. So the guy that put me on, John Paul Pezzo, I'm going to talk a little bit about his past as well. All right. So, John Paul is one of the upper echelon of like promoters, buyers, whatever the talent buyer, whatever the proper terminology for what he does is. So he's actually been in the game for years, like Sound Factory, Pacha, all these names of, New York clubs that have come and gone. But, he has a really good eye for somebody who can like create the energy of the room. And like, I knew his history going into that first major set with Roger Sanchez. I knew his history. I knew the crowd that was coming. I knew all of these things. So that made me really focus on like, what are these things I need to know? And the things that I needed to know was that like, the energy of the room, like as you walk in, let's say you were going in at 10 p.m., whatever the time it opens, whatever. If I was playing anything with too much energy, it's going to take away you from that experience that you're having. It's gonna happen. So it's like a movie. You don't start the movie at the climax of the movie. It has to, you have to set the tone, you have to set the characters. Everything needs to be kind of an organic like flow, if you will. So when I was opening, I would do a like as a parabolic curve. That's the way I thought of my sets, where I was like gradually getting up to this point, and I would have that like energy climax that like every DJ wants to have, but I would make sure I bring it back down to around here for the next guy to play, because he or she appreciates that. The crowd appreciates that. A little bit of the factor of like, oh man, he was going off right before he was finished, you know, like it leaves them wanting a little bit more. And in a sense, you're selling yourself. So if I'm going to give the best advice as one line to an opening DJ, is that you need to know how to sell yourself properly in musically. Because if you go above or under a threshold that you're supposed to have, which you will only get from experience, right? Then you're either underselling, overselling, but you're not right here. You need to be somewhere in the middle where people are going to remember who you are and want more of what you do. And that's going to make you the best opening DJ. It's not the bangers you play. It's not the IDs that you have. It is the energy that you give off, you know? And also too, besides the energy of the music, people also want to see that you're chilled out. My first set, I was sweating like Bruce Willis in Die Hard, man. I was not in a good place.
Nerves, huh?
Oh,
obviously, I mean, Roger, right? He is a house god, we'll say.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you said like at the time you haven't been DJing that long at the time.
Right.
I mean, you're stepping in literally the fire, literally. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Fire.
Yep, I know. It's a good thing I was a firefighter, right?
Exactly.
So you see these decks over here.
Yeah.
I wish I still kept in contact with the guy that I bought this from. I bought that whole setup. The sub that I'm sitting under is part of that. There's an RMX, two XDJs, 1000s, whatever they are, a DJM 2000 mixer. But I bought that from a guy on Facebook Marketplace about like whatever a couple of years ago. And so like 3 weeks leading up to that set, I was playing 4 hours a day every day, just because like I was like, I can't fuck this up, you know, like this is important. And it was interesting though. I will say this, because a lot of younger people don't know who Roger Sanchez is. You know, they like a lot of younger people don't really care for the history of like what's going on. It's just like what's hot right now. So I played to an older crowd, older quote unquote, than I really ever have beyond that. And that in itself kind of pushed me towards like really like understanding what I was doing. Because like if I was playing all like, let's just say if this was today, right? And I was going down like Beatport's top 100, whatever, most of that crowd would have no idea what I'm playing. None. So like it made me have to like really dig for better tunes that would connect with the older crowd, as well as stuff that I could be happy spinning. So I that set, like as much as it was, granted, I played mad Toolroom stuff at the time because that was like what I was all about. So but it worked because it still had the flair of what Roger would have done.
So everybody, we are back. Sorry for the inconvenience. We had a little bit of technical difficulties with the computers, but we are all good now. So like we were mentioning, Toolroom. Tone heard me playing a lot of Toolroom, stuff like that, and he mentioned in the beginning that Toolroom kind of played like a bigger influence in his musical journey. So can you kind of get into the Toolroom aspect of it?
Right. So a lot of what I was into, let's say at the time, it just kind of like organically found was a lot of Mark Knight stuff. Mm-hmm. So I will say for sure, earlier in my career, Mark was probably the biggest influence on music out of anybody, other producer that I can think of. And because of that, it was like, that's all, like I wanted to be on Toolroom, you know, because if it was the thing that made me kind of get to this point, then like, why not try to attain that? Yeah. So, you know, after they did the documentary piece on me, I had a relationship with them, and I sent them a lot of music and I got a lot of no's, even though I had like a personal relationship with a lot of the guys there and the girls there. But that first record that I ended up having with them was called Yesterday. I have 2 records with them. One was called Yesterday, and the other one's called You Give.
Okay.
And so Yesterday was a collab with my buddy Spencer Zabila and Ashish Patel, and I sampled Laissez-Faire in this track.
Okay.
To get the rights to this track, it took almost 18 months.
Damn.
And I was like, that's a story in itself, because I ended up speaking to one of the original singers of the group. Mind you, this was for a comp album, you know, but like I knew that they wanted the track.
Yeah.
And I was going to do whatever it took because they gave me the green light to be on Toolroom. So I was like calling places, the defunct record labels, whatever. Like I was trying to find who had the masters and who had the publishing rights to this song so that I could use for like the 2 lines of dialogue that I use in the track, you know? And the funny thing is, the track is not even like a Toolroom style track.
No.
Now that it's been like years that it's been made, we originally made that for Knee Deep in Sound, right?
Okay, yeah,
because like if you listen to it now, then you could definitely hear that's like, all right, I can see why they said that, but like I think because it was different, I think that's why they did sign it. But you know, like that was like my shining moment. That was like, all right, maybe I could be a music producer, you know, because like after years of like this track, like I have other tracks that came out that I sent them, like I sent them a track they turned down first, but then Nervous immediately took it, you know? And that's like, I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, you know, for such a long time, but like, I got it. I understood, you know? And when You Give came out, Danny over at Toolroom, he actually asked me to send some music for that album. And he said no to like 7 of the tracks. And You Give, it's funny because I can't wait to talk about this now in this podcast. In that song in 2019. Right? And so like I was like, hey, man, let me just send it back. Let's see what they say. Like, we love it. And I was like, thank you so much.
Do you think that happened because their sound changed, or do you think his sound changed in his mind?
Well, all right. So labels are constantly changing. Yeah. You know, like it's gonna happen. But I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe because it's for the Toolroom Academy album. I don't know. Regardless, I love those guys.
Hell yeah.
I have nothing but great things to say about them, but it was just like, damn, we could have had this song 2 years ago. You know?
Yeah, right. So like you put out the tracks with them. How did the Toolroom Academy? Because there's 2 things that you did that I wish people take away from this interview. One is doing the research on new beginnings, obviously production, i.e. DJing opener sets, and now you did a production class with Toolroom. How did that come about?
Well, you know what? It was good. It was a really good class. And now like I'm a little like I've done other classes after, even though I have like records to my name now on decent labels, like I still want to take classes because in my mind, I'm like, I still have no idea what I'm doing. It's just kind of like I'm doing stuff, and if it works, it works. But you know, like I would never consider myself a master of this craft. And so that class was really good because it was a class. You know, like it's like, all right, today we're gonna do this, and it was a syllabus, and it was very organized and very like, this is what we're gonna learn, and you know, it was good in that sense, structure. Like I know you have prior military background, so you know how important like structure is for people like us. You know,
yeah, for sure.
So it was great to have that, and it was great to have the personal feedback. D. Ramirez was the head teacher for that. Along with Pete Griffiths. I don't know if I'm saying his name wrong right now. It's like I'm on the spot now. I'm thinking about it, but they're great guys, you know. And there's so much knowledge that those 2 had that like really came on display for the course, and there are foundations to that I use in my music still right now. You know, like they taught you how to make a Toolroom record, so there was a little bit of like, I had to like unlearn some stuff just a little bit, you know, like maybe the use of my hats. Cause like, if you think about like what's popping right now, let's just say Repopulate Mars. It's like very like hats aren't as like present. They're not as like reverby. It's very like
yeah.
crisp. Everything is very clean and crisp and crisp. Like everything hits the way it's supposed to hit. You know,
Yeah.
Toolroom is sounds very busy. You
Yeah.
know, and they taught you that. They taught you like, if you were doing this, you're gonna do this. If you're gonna do this, you're gonna do this.
Yeah.
But like it was the focus on like the sound that they really enjoyed, which is like exactly what I wanted. You know,
Yeah.
so
I mean, not to interrupt, but in my opinion, in that realm, they have the best sounding stuff, in my opinion. And it's full as hell. Always, it's a big sound. Like like a Toolroom sound or song before it comes on almost.
absolutely. And I think that's kind of like why I was so happy to be on that label, because, it's like, I can't tell you what my sound is. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure someone else could be like, oh, well, you do this and this. And
Yeah.
like, every time I come and sit down on Ableton, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just like, all right, maybe let's figure something out.
Yeah.
But, it was cool to learn, like, see behind the curtain a little bit and kind of get the tips of the trade from those guys.
Yeah.
For sure, I do recommend learning in general. I recommend to anybody, but I do recommend that course because it's very thorough, and that's what I needed.
Do you think that if you went to that class, or sorry, if you didn't go to that class, do you think that you would have as much knowledge and kind of how far you are now compared to?
I don't know. It's funny because I have a group chat with a bunch of the guys from that like graduating class, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about it today. Like one guy put something out on like, oh, I'm working on this, and it was like really good piano house song, like really like very well made. And like I remember the same guy would say like be able to call out what key they were working in the class, like, oh no, you're actually in D sharp, like, like, so these guys are like very musically inclined.
Yeah.
And me, I was like, I don't want to tell nobody. I'm like, I don't know how to do it. Like, I was like, how do I, so I didn't say anything, but yeah. I mean, would I know as much? It's tough to say because like, I'm the kind of person that like, if I have a question, I'm going to go seek the answer, and there's a lot of really good YouTube, like Zen World, I think it's got some really great production videos. He also sells sample pack or serum packs, excuse me.
Yeah.
And like he's got a great sound. I love what he does. Would I maybe have gone through that completely and learned that? Yes. But the difference is that I was given assignments of this is what you need to make, and then like sending it away and like, all right, well, you got to change this, because of this, this, and this. And that in itself was worth its weight in gold, in my opinion.
Yeah. That's dope. And you just got back from overseas, right, with them?
Yes, man, we're in May already.
Like a month ago, a month and a half ago, something like that.
February, dude.
Damn, so 4 months ago almost.
Yeah, man, it's been a bit. But yeah, I got to play Ministry of Sound. First time ever being there, so that was cool.
Yo, man, talk about that. I mean, don't just say yo. I think the sound. You know what I mean? You gotta talk about that experience.
Well, it was funny because like I know a bunch of people that live out in the UK, and like I love going out there because it's just like, I get to go hang out with all my friends. And so there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different like DJ booths, 4 rooms, if you will.
Yeah.
And they had every room was rocking. I thought was really cool is that if you go into the main room, right, there's no bars in the main room or anything, but like there's these like almost like the movie poster, like old school movie poster things that had like the, if you put the poster in front, there's a light up in the background.
Yeah.
And kind of like emotes what the movie is.
Yeah.
They had these huge signs where like, like have ear protection because you will have ear damage. Shit. Yeah. It's like your organs vibrate when you go into that room. It was sick. It was great. And you know who played a phenomenal set? And like, I hate to be like, oh, you don't play the best set of the night, because then I'm not like shitting on anybody else. It's just Gene Farris's set was so good, man. And it was just like, like I like Gene. I've been on his. Actually, I just signed 2 more records to his label.
Nice.
But I don't know, man. Gene's energy was sick. It was just crazy, like,
right?
He wasn't doing like crazy stuff. It was just like really good selection, perfect timing of like some effects, and just like he was vibing. And
I mean, if we talk about OGs in the game, he's definitely one of them, man.
Absolutely.
He's been in the game for many different eras. How?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think I kind of like was a little bit abrasive when I saw him, because like I was on a label prior. My best record that I've ever like selling wise was actually on Gene's label. It was a track called Paranoid.
Yeah.
But like I never spoke to Gene. Actually, I did speak to Gene once, but this was like way before I was even making music.
Yeah.
And so like I kind of like forced myself into the green room, and I was like, "Hey, Gene, what's up?" And Gene's like, "Man, Tone," like everybody was like calling me, and like I was like, "I mean, I'm Tone, all right," and I've been drinking the whole fucking day, and I was just like, "Yo, I just want to say thank you for letting me put my track out." Blah blah blah. And we talked about Spider-Man, I guess, for a little bit. I don't know, but he's a dope dude, man. Like, I'm very happy to have more on his label. I would love to come out to Chicago specifically to see him play.
That'd be dope.
Home city, you know.
Yeah, he was just at Bang Bang, and unfortunately, I had another gig, so I didn't have a chance to see him. But you know, I heard he did good. I heard he rocked the crowd out there.
Gene is the man.
Hell yeah.
I tooth the nail. I'll fight for that.
Hell yeah.
That guy still has it heavy.
Hell yeah. All right, so let's get into the East Coast New York scene, house music scene. Like I mentioned prior to the podcast when we started, I stopped living basically in Jersey, which obviously everybody knows is close to New York, in 2008. So I'm kind of out of that loop. Can you explain to everybody kind of like what's that scene looking like right now?
Oof, well, you're in a much better place now, my friend. All right, so let me not be jaded for a hot minute.
Yeah.
I will dissect the scene for you, and also too, this might be a little opinionated, and I just want to put that as a disclaimer. But I see the scene kind of in a few different ways. I will say this: I do believe that techno still reigns supreme in New York. Okay. Like if you're but it's such an exclusive club to be like a legitimate like techno act in New York.
Okay.
Right? Because there's so many people that do it, but then it's still the same names that you see over and over. Yeah. Right. So Brooklyn in itself used to be like perfect for house music, right? And it still is. In my opinion, it is. But there's been so many Manhattan clubs that have been popping up, and I hate Manhattan clubs still to this day. I don't care for a place that like is like a bottle service minimum, whatever. Like if you don't have standing room and it's like an acceptable place for everybody to be, I'm not about it. I just never been about it, you know, like whatever. So because of that, the scene in New York right now is a lot of the acts that, let's just say, if you looked in your last set that you played and look at a couple artists that you played out, they're most likely playing in Manhattan over Brooklyn these days because they're just throwing money at these places, right?
Yeah.
So you'll have a lot of support acts that aren't necessarily like you don't need to be a full-time music person either. You know what I'm saying? Or you don't need to be I started as a DJ. You can always expand, but there's people that are like there for Instagram pictures that are open.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Clout chasers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And I see a lot of that happening. I see a lot of like divide in what house music is becoming. I don't want to get super jaded or sound super old either. It's just more so the fact that like the joy that I had by going to places like Output and, you know, things of that nature, it's getting few and far between now because of how the sounds are changing, the demand for certain acts are. And it's like, you know, for a guy like me who still does throw parties and, you know, occasionally books a bigger acts to bring, like the smaller promoters and stuff are getting crushed with like asking fees because I can't throw numbers. I'm not allowed to throw numbers in that aspect, but like these smaller guys are getting charged like almost double what they would to play at a different spot, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the same I hear. The market kind of, you know, dictates everyone, you know. So if a big club has more money compared to, like, you know, not someone that's starting out throwing parties, but just like a collective almost. I mean, if I'm getting, you know, 10 from a club, sense to do the same amount of time at a small spot for, you know, $1,000. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It makes sense. You know, I'm really fortunate as of late. I don't know if you ever heard of a club called Elsewhere, but they, you know, I'm doing something with them in 2 weeks. I've done, I think, almost 7 events with them over time.
Okay.
And it started out in the real small room and then the side room, and now we're doing the main room.
Hell yeah.
But playing for them is the closest I get to having that experience that I used to have when I DJ'd like maybe 4 years ago or something, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Be just because like there's no tables in the entire venue. And it's just like the sound quality is really good. The people are there for the music. It's like one of those spots that like you really get a really good DJ experience and a really good music experience as a listener.
Yeah.
So, like if they let me, I would exclusively play there in Brooklyn, to be honest. Like I would just call a residency there. I don't play anywhere else in New York other than that spot. I'd be so happy because like I get the experience of why I did this when I play there.
I mean, shit, maybe hopefully they're listening to this. You know what I mean?
Who knows, man? I gotta show out next week. I already like, I can't wait to play this. Can't wait to play this. You know,
hell yeah, that's fire. That's fire. So you mentioned that. Okay, one more question. So like you said, techno kind of reigns supreme.
Yeah.
And then is it tech house then house, or is it kind of like?
It's like like it depends because like there's like so many different genres of tech house now. It's let's just call it techno, and then we'll just call it everything else kind of finds its place. Because there's like that minimal like tough guy tech house stuff. There's a lot of collectives that do stuff with that, and it's cool. It's not for me, so I don't really know. My ear's not super to the ground for those guys, and then there's like real house music that are on vinyl, and like that's kind of like few and far between. And then like tech house is just such this wide range of like, like just a kick, clap, hi-hat, hip hop sample. You know what I'm saying? Like that could be like, that's definitely up there because there's money to be spent here, So that's why I'm trying to like walk this line of like, I don't want to do that in itself. Like there are elements of that I have that are very similar to that, but like I want to have stuff that is not necessarily like, oh, this is a mad familiar vocal over just like a 2-note bass line, it's, I don't know. I'm sure I'll probably throw that out the window if I get like, if you're like, oh, Repopulate Mars, we love this. I'm like, all right, yep. I mean, sign it up.
Bro, it's like one of those things like you just gotta make music like the way you love it. And then if someone happens to love it too, I mean, what are we gonna do? Or not, I'm not copy what they do, but like make stuff for them, but also make stuff for them. And that's where I'm at right now, myself, in my making musical journey. I make music that I like, and then sometimes I make music that I know that will jump off in the club. So because I trying to feed everybody,
I noticed the last 2 tracks you sent me a very stark difference from each other, which I
way different.
Yeah. Like that's good. You got to stretch your wings. You got to do that stuff, man. And
for sure.
It's not something a lot of people do very often. It's usually like a lot of one thing and then a slow push off. So
now, do you think that is because they want to have a sound, or do you think that's the sound that is going to get them where they want to go?
See, I battle with that myself. I know like you've heard like maybe my last 7 whatever that I've So, I had that EP on Brobot.
Oh, yeah, yep.
I use like some samples I don't want to name out loud because I did not clear those. But the thing was like, I don't make music like that very often. Yeah. Like I try to make a song or 2 like that per year to cleanse my palate, and I know those songs are not going to get me to playing in a festival. That's still the goal. I've never played a festival. That's like top of my list. Like I played international. I played in different countries. I so badly want to play a festival just to have that experience. But regardless, I make music like that kind of for me, and then if it goes out, it goes out. Like I manage myself, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on who you ask. But for me as the artist, for Tone Troy as the artist, like I need these things because if I keep making the same thing over and over, it's just gonna get stale to me.
Hell
and
yeah.
If it's stale to me, then why am I gonna like what's gonna come out of this that's like different?
Exactly.
So I don't know,
bro. Yeah, it's a constant struggle, man. And I think every artist kind of goes through it. Just like you said earlier, like staying true to yourself and then stand true to the streets. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things. But we all figure it out.
It's important for me to like have some. I need music that's like consumer friendly. I understand this, right? And most producers like heads are gonna be like, this you can't be thinking about that. But I do make music that I want to appease the heads as well. Obviously this middle ground is where everybody wants to be at, but like
Yeah.
I could do both. I just don't know how to be here yet.
Yeah. I mean, I say I think that's where everybody wants to be, to have balance,
Yeah, and
Sure.
I'm finding it. Like this record I got on Cuff, like I think it's kind of cool. It's different. I made it just for Cuff, so I'm glad
Yeah.
Cuff signed it.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to that today. I think you sent it to me this morning, I think.
Yes, I did. I just sent the promos out today. Actually.
Hell yeah. So you mentioned that you run your own events in New York. You want to mention the name and kind of why you kind of got into that?
Yes, absolutely. So my group is called The Assembly.
Okay.
As we discussed earlier, it is a homage to the Avengers. We couldn't call ourselves, like, I had a group of friends that I DJ'd with. A lot of them kind of went off to different aspects of life and stopped doing it. So makes me sad, but it is what it is. But yeah, so eventually I made this group essentially to have a collective that I can go pitch to venues to let us DJ. And this was originally made not to make money. It was just so that we could DJ and have a good time with each other and, like hang out. And it's eventually became a viable source of income. It's, now I got a boat party, I got a pseudo residency at one spot. Like, like I have a bit of a brand with that. And I haven't tied it completely to who I am as an artist, because it's like very fluid in the sense of like some days it'll be like a very mainstream artist that we bring in. And other days it'll be like just like me in a basement, like playing whatever I want to play,
Yeah.
So I do it like very much like my music. Like I'll just kind of go back and forth with it because like that's who I am, and that's what I want. I wish my brand could be like does whatever he wants and everyone loves it. Like, like I wish that could just be the brand. But like it's a little bit of more of a passion project, but like now that it's becoming a little bit more lucrative in a sense, I'm keeping it as is.
Oh yeah. When did you guys start that?
I was just thinking about this actually. It was a couple years ago. I want to say it was well before I started doing music, like making music. So I want to just say 5 years.
5 years?
Just say 5 years, but it wasn't like making money until like last year. It was just more so a thing.
Besides, kicking with your friends, and was there like a certain reason? Did you see a void in the scene that you wanted to fill, or it was just like
100%. It was more like I'm sure even your stuff that you have that mentality, but like it was for us, like, and if other people liked it, then like great, come, like this is like we didn't want any pretentiousness, we didn't want any bouncers, we didn't want none of that. We just wanted to go kick it, have good times, and just that was it. That was the whole mission of this thing, right?
Yeah.
And obviously things change over time. Like I'm not trying to take an L on a party, so like it has to kind of make money,
Yeah.
But I am very happy with the people that are coming because either they know other people that are there, which is great because we always want more people that like kind of know each other. It keeps everybody in check. We never really have any problems in that sense, but like, or somebody knows the music that maybe I've made or somebody else on the lineup has made. So it's just kind of like a slow drip of like really good organic building, so to speak.
Yeah, like kind of like a homegrown type of thing.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna ride it out, and see if it's something that's like legitimate in the future. Then the door's open for that for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, my main focus is definitely like me as a producer.
Yeah.
But
did you see, obviously you suffered during the pandemic, but did you guys do any like online streaming or anything? Did you take it to that or no?
No, well, here's the thing too. I was, because I am a fireman.
Yeah.
There was a lot that I was like, I don't, I can't take this risk. Like I went to work the day that like the world shut down,
Yeah.
And I was like really afraid that we were under the microscope for anything like that. So I just, everything was on the back burner. The one good thing that came out of it outside of like that for the assembly was that the only reason I have any of these records kind of like out is because like that's all people were doing was listening through their demo emails.
Yeah.
So I had most of my music that kind of got me like a foot in the door for other bigger labels was because I sent it out during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So it was a glass half full in that moment.
Yeah, I know a lot of people and myself as well. You know, I definitely made bigger moves making music during the pandemic because I had shit to do besides that and work. You know, and at the time I was working at a job where there wasn't. Yes, the pandemic was going on, but we had to do our job anyway. So it was full steam ahead. You know.
Yeah, dude, I get it, man.
Yeah.
I was going kind of crazy. It was funny when it first happened. I was like, oh, this will all blow over in a month. I'll just play video games, get the nuts scene for a little bit. Like, this is gonna be great. Like,
yeah,
I don't have to be in club at all. Like, this is awesome.
That's what everybody.
Lo and behold,
2 years later on, huh?
Right.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So, man, I want to get into we have a little bit left, but I really want to get into your upcoming music. You said that you have one coming out on Cuff coming out. When's that coming out?
That comes out May 27th on a comp album called This Is Comp Volume 3.
Okay.
I also have a single coming out the same day with Willow B, who's actually one of the co-creators of Radioactive. Is a really good event group. Do really big parties in Miami, Detroit, New York. But that's coming out on Purple Tea. It's a small Canadian-based label. Those guys they got a good vision. I like what they do.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I have signed a track to Street Tracks. I have no dates for any of these that I'm going to tell you right now, but just like this has all happened within the last 2 weeks. 2 tracks to Ferris Wheel. Man, there's like 2 more I'm missing. One I'm waiting for the contract, so like you know what, I can't drop that name because I don't want to like
jinx it.
Yeah, I don't want to jinx it. One other one, man, and I can't remember off the top of my head, which is like
it's all good.
Really crushing me. But
the one you have right now is with Kyle, right?
Yes, Kyle Kinch. Kyle Kinch is the man. I love that dude. We spent like 3 days out in Miami for Miami Music Week, and I met him prior. So when we made this track, we actually didn't even know each other. Okay. Right. I just used to support his music, and he actually liked my music. I ended up reaching out to him because I got one of his tracks on promo. I can't tell you the name of it off the top of my head, but I played on Toolroom Radio, and I sent it to him. I'm like, dude, this track is great, blah, blah, blah. I played on Toolroom Radio, and that's how we had a friendship. And then through Instagram, we ended up making a song together, and that song came together like that. Yeah, that was I tossed it up, he knocked it out of the park, you know. But then like the first time I met him, he actually was opening for John Summit in New York, so I came out to see him. Every time he's out in New York, I'm going to check out Kyle.
Hell yeah. Where's he from?
He's he jumped around in the US, but he's in Florida right now.
Oh, okay.
I think he has family in New York. I think he was telling me he went to like school in another state, but I know that he's in Florida right now.
That's dope, man. That's dope. So yeah, we'll have all those your links and all that stuff on the bottom of the screen, man, for sure.
Sick.
Yo, bro, this was a good interview. I always like DJing. I always like interviewing DJs and producers from like where I'm from, because we share some type of, either we know somebody, we sound the same, or like it's always love, man. So
there is an energy from the East Coast. I'm not saying anybody else doesn't have it. It's like it's just it's just an energy, man. You gotta,
Hell yeah. Well, man, I want to say, thank you for coming on the show, bro. And yeah, man.
Anytime. When are you coming out to New York, bro?
Shit, man. Yo, I'm trying to get booked there every day of my life. So what's up, man?
All right, listen, I'll try to put you in touch with some people, my friend.
And you know me, I'll do the same, man, because we have mutual friends out here that are in some pretty nice spots at clubs. So I'll definitely put a good word in for you for sure.
Well, tell Pablo I said what's up.
Him, exactly. For sure, bro. All right, bro. Thank you, man.